Chapter 2281. Support? Chapter 2281. Support, come up, said Renhuang Chen, high up in the air. Suddenly, multiple figures charged into the clouds towards the sky. Then, they landed beside Renhuang Chen. They knew what Renhuang Chen wanted to do. At the same time, the cultivators of the opposing side had also gathered together in an area below them. The black-robed elder raised his head to look at Renhuang Chen. In the earlier battle, he had already sensed that his opponent's battle strength was above his own, and the scepter in his opponent's hands was also extraordinary. This person was very frightening. Then, the starlight screen of the area began to twirl. Countless rays of starlight descended from above. Intense roars rang in the air. After that, blades of starry divine swords emerged high up in the sky. At the same time, as Renhuang Chen extended his hand holding the scepter directly connected to the starlight screen and devoured the limitless starlight. After that, everything converged and transformed into a sky-reaching, divine sword that pointed downward. A ray of starlight shot outward into the sky. It was as if all the starlight in the 9 heavens had landed onto the starry light screen and converged into the starry divine sword, making it more powerful. One after another, the gigantic starry divine sword seemed intent on burying the entire world. The top figures of the dark world felt a sense of crisis. Each of them released a frightening power of the great path from their bodies. The incredible existence above who had gone through a tribulation wanted to annihilate them all on the spot. The black-shirt youth's gaze was cold. Aurora of the Reaper shot out from his pupils. In the dark world, the faction he belonged to was one of the best. Apart from the Dark Court and a few other factions, no one else would dare to act so impudently in front of them, not to mention the fact that they were trying to kill them. Now, in this land within the Void Realm, which had long become abject, there was actually a faction that intended to destroy them. The black-robed elder had a solemn expression on his face. He stood in front of the youth. The cultivators of the dark world also gathered behind him. Then, his black robe fluttered, and a frightening aura burst from his body. It seemed as if black clouds had covered the sky and blocked out the starlight. A world of inferno seemed to have emerged in this space and covered the vast sky and boundless land. It also seemed to want to devour Renhuang Chen and the others in the sky. Inside this space, multiple shadows of demons and ghosts appeared. They held dark spears, crimson-colored demonic hammers, reaper sickles, and many others. It looked like the real hell. There was also a frightening light of catastrophe blinking. It was the light of catastrophe from the Reaper. It crushed anything in its path. A frightening treasure also appeared in front of the black-robed elder. It looked like it was crafted from a divine wheel of the great path. A powerful and frightening power seemed to be propagating within it. The light of catastrophe flashed incessantly. It looked like a mighty dark magic item had been smelted into his divine wheel of the great path. They had merged into one, and it was extremely powerful. Kill! Renhuang Chen shouted from the sky. Suddenly, the endless starry divine light swept past the darkness. With vast and mighty world-destroying strength, it shot downward. Frightening sounds of rumbling filled the skies. The starry divine swords pierced through heaven and earth. Accompanied by the descent of the blinding divine light, the swords shot toward the cultivators of the dark world. All the cultivators of the dark world released intimidating power of the great path as they prepared to block it. The strongest person was naturally the black-robed elder, who blocked the attack right in front of him. When the starry divine swords pierced into the space of inferno, the demons and ghosts directly slammed into them. Blades of light of catastrophe also shot towards them. In an instant, heaven and earth seemed to crumble as a devastating and destructive storm appeared within the space of inferno. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The starry divine sword in the middle contained the greatest might. It shot downward. Demons and ghosts were directly punctured and destroyed. They could not block it at all. This was also the sword that killed the tribulation-level existence on Sun God Mountain in the past. One could only imagine just how scary it was. Boom! The sword smashed into its enemy. Like a god stopping a godslayer, the sword directly shot towards the cultivators below. The black-robed elder had a solemn expression. He threw the black alms bowl in his hand into the sky. Suddenly, the black alms bowl transformed into a separate space that devoured everything. The gigantic starry divine sword was actually devoured by this black alms bowl. Then, inside the bowl, the starry divine light and destructive dark divine light exploded at the same time. Loud sounds of explosions continuously came from within. The black alms trembled violently. The black-robed elder raised an arm and held the black alms bowl. A surge of the power of the great path flowed into the bowl. The dark energy in the surrounding area also surged crazily into the bowl as if trying to devour all power of the great path. The shaking became more and more violent. 2 rays of divine light turned around and shot upwards into the sky. A ray of starry divine light. A ray of destructive light of catastrophe. They were interwoven together. In the sky, Renhuang Chen's purple robe also began to flutter. He extended his foot forward. Divine powers poured into the scepter in his hand from below. Then, a loud explosion ensued. A loud and violent sound came from the black alms bowl. The black-robed elder could be heard letting out a slight grunt. After that, vague sounds of something breaking and cracking could be heard. Then, many people were surprised to find out that underneath the giant black alms bowl, cracks had appeared. Blades of frightening starry divine light leaked from within. It was as if they were going to burst out from there at any moment. The black-robed elder's black robe expanded. He raised his hand to point at the black alms bowl. Then, a more powerful divine power of the great path seemed to surge into it. 2 types of auras crashed and collided with each other within. Boom! A powerful blast rang in the air. The black alms bowl finally burst open. The black-robed elder spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His aura had also weakened significantly. However, even though the black alms bowl was broken, the starry divine sword was also destroyed. It did not continue homing in to kill its target. He destroyed a divine wheel of the great path. The hearts of many cultivators from the dark world beat violently. That was a tribulation-level existence. He was actually pushed into this state? He had 1 divine wheel of the great path destroyed, and he also suffered severe injuries. It looked like it would be near impossible for him to recover. This strike was enough to diminish the prospects of this black-robed elder. It seemed like he couldn't progress even a step further. His cultivation could even deteriorate. However, at that moment, it was not time yet to think about such things. Right then, they did not even know if they would be able to get out of there alive, much less think about anything related to the future. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Starry divine lights began to converge again. In the sky, the star light screen continued to breed devastating powers. It looked like it would not stop until they were annihilated. The cultivators from the dark world knew that they had encountered someone extremely difficult this time. They were actually going to kill them for a few commoners of some realms. Bang! However, at that moment, the star light screen suddenly shook violently. The space they were in was already sealed. However, for such violent shaking to occur, it was clear that someone was attacking from the outside. Renhuang Chen spread his divine consciousness outside the sealed territory and saw that many cultivators had appeared. Then another loud bang. Multiple cracks appeared on the starlight screen. After that it broke. High in the sky, from multiple different directions, cultivators stood tall and proud. The auras emanating from their bodies were frightening. They were all top-level cultivators. Seeing the scene before them, light returned to the eyes of the dark world cultivators below. Someone had come to support them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Renhuang Chen focused on the cultivators who appeared, only to see one of them stepping forward at this moment. The aura permeated from the man was terrifying, as he was also an existence of the tribulation level. The other cultivators who with him also possessed an aura that was equally as frightening. Renhuang Chen focused on the cultivators who appeared, only to see one of them stepping forward at this moment. The aura permeated from the man was terrifying, as he was also an existence of the tribulation level. The other cultivators who with him also possessed an aura that was equally as frightening. These people were from the dark world. They recognized Yi Futian and his party. Almost all the top cultivators from the original realm had participated in that battle at Heavenly Mandate Academy. Only those who descended on the original realm later did not witness what took place during the battle. Even so, they had heard about Yi Futian and Ziwei Segmentum, the cultivators from Dark Court. Yi Futian marveled. That powerful existence who came forward may be from the Dark Court. Like the Imperial Palace in Divine Prefecture, the Dark Court was a ruling power in the Dark World. It had an unknown number of cultivators who possessed unimaginable prowess. Gai Qiong, who was killed by Yi Futian, was one of Divine Prefecture's divine generals. Of course, in the Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture, there was no lack of individuals with this cultivation level, and the Dark Court was no exception. This powerful existence who had arrived was one of the cultivators presided over the 8 thrones in the Dark Court, a supreme existence ranked close to the top, the Infernal King himself. The reason for the Infernal King to come in person was because he had an extraordinary relationship with this young man in black. He came from the same bloodline as the young man and later became a cultivator on the throne after he had entered the Dark Court to cultivate. In the cultivation world, anyone who had passed the divine tribulation of the Great Path was regarded as a supreme cultivator. In Ziwei Segmentum, aside from the previous palace lord, only Renhuang Chen was a cultivator of the tribulation level. Donghua domain in which Yi Futian had cultivated before Emperor Shi, it was rumored that only the domain chief of Donghua domain had survived the divine tribulation of the Great Path. And the domain chief of the domain chief's manor was a supreme being who could rule in the stead of the great emperor if need be. Therefore, cultivators of the tribulation level were highly regarded. The fact that a supreme existence of tribulation level was willing to protect the young man in black called the young man's background into question. It was not hard to imagine from what great force was he originated. This was also the consensus between Yi Futian and the others. In truth, the youth in black came from one of the top principalities in the Dark World, the Infernal Clan, which ruled boundless territory within the Dark World. Legend had it that in the ancient times, the clan had godlike cultivators passing down their inheritance until this day. However, the true depth of their strength was unfathomable. The Infernal Clan had produced many extraordinary figures for the Dark World. Among them, the Infernal King was the most excellent. When he was appointed, he was named the Infernal King, the master of the Infernal Throne. Strictly speaking, the Infernal King was the junior brother of the current clan leader of the Infernal Clan. Therefore, the young man in black should be addressing him as Uncle Master. It was not hard to deduce the status of the young man in black in the Dark World. This was why he acted so recklessly when he reached the original realm, refining the vitality of other cultivators for his own gain with impunity, destroying the realm at every chance he had. The Infernal King's eyes were indifferent, and a chill shrouded this space. He was the top 3 existence among the 8 kings of the Dark Court. In addition to the 2 top cultivators among the 8 kings, there were also individual supreme existences above the 8 kings, as well as that old monster who had previously hidden in the shadows. His status could be considered as being at the very peak of all existence. Their entry to the original realm this time was supervised by him. In addition to the battle at the Heavenly Mandate Academy last time, the Dark World had sent a cultivator who had passed the second divine tribulation. On the outside, it appeared that he commanded all the cultivators of the Dark World in the original realm. Uncle Master. Yi Futian's eyes sharpened when he heard the young man in black calling out to the Infernal King. His eyes swept toward the Infernal King and the youth in black. Was this young man have some direct connection with the Dark Court? No wonder he was so brazen to kill without discrimination. The Infernal King nodded slightly, but the look on his face was gloomy. His eyes swept over at Yi Futian and the others coldly, and there was a strong murderous intent in his heart. However, he was also a little apprehensive, so he did not dare to attack Yi Futian outright. After all, the memory of that battle was still fresh in his mind. The teacher who came to this world may be of the Imperial realm, and they couldn't afford to offend someone at this level. Remember what kind of character the Saint Emperor of the Holy Land of Taichu was? A supreme being who had passed the second divine tribulation of the Great Path, was comparable to his senior brother's position as the clan leader of Infernal Clan in the Dark World. Divine prefecture aside, even in the entire world, such a person was at the top of all existences. A person at this level was almost killed on the spot. If it weren't for the opponent's mercy, he would have been killed most unceremoniously with great embarrassment to boot. Yi Futian now was regarded as one of the thorniest characters who could not be provoked, at least in the land of the original realm. So it was best not to touch him. Anything that happened to Yi Futian would anger that mysterious but supreme existence, and they would not be able to stay in the original realm. Let me settle the matter by taking him away. What do you say? The Infernal King proposed while looking at Yi Futian. His group was actually a bit stronger in strength, but he didn't dare to touch Yi Futian carelessly. At the moment, several existences of the Imperial Realm had reached a tacit agreement with one another, achieving a state of balance. If the teacher was truly a hidden figure of the Imperial Realm, any provocations might have unforeseeable consequences, and even he would not be able to bear the responsibility. Therefore, even the Infernal King had his concerns. Uncle Master, the young man in black looked at the Infernal King questioningly. Would they let him go? The powerful existence among them, who was of the tribulation level, had lost his divine wheel of the Great Path. If it weren't for the Infernal King and the others who arrived in time, Yi Futian and the others would have killed and destroyed them right here. And now, to spare them? To let the whole matter go? Even though he had heard of that battle, could there really be someone of the Imperial Realm? Even if someone of the Imperial Realm were really to intervene, wouldn't the Master of the Dark Court come in person? Obviously, as someone merely cultivating in the Infernal Clan, he did not have as many concerns as the Infernal King. After all, their responsibilities were different. The Infernal King was responsible for the entire situation. Likewise, Yi Futian could never allow the Infernal King to take the young man away. His eyes showed indifference. This man was a menace in the original realm, killed and slaughtered at will at every turn to bring hell on earth, causing many to lose their lives. How could he let him go just like that? Can you leave him? Yi Futian pointed to the young man in black and replied. He could see that the cultivators from the Dark World didn't want to offend him, and that was why he proposed that he would drop the matter when he could take the young man with him. At any rate, this blood debt must be repaid. The dark eyes of the Infernal King looked at Yi Futian, revealing a mighty and coercive spirit upon his person, exerting a tremendous sense of oppression on him. He thought he had already conceded quite a lot to Yi Futian. As the Infernal King, he didn't pursue this matter further and was willing to let the whole thing go as long as he could take his people away. But Yi Futian refused to give up and demanded him to hand over the young man. Renhuang Chen's figure appeared in front of Yi Futian, the scepter in his hand covered in brilliant light, releasing wisps of starry divine light. A powerful pressure was now released toward the Infernal King, as he could faintly detect that the strength of the Infernal King was above the old man in the black robe. If there was a battle, they had no advantage to speak of. They may want to detain these people, but it would be difficult. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2283, Thoughts. Chapter 2283, Thoughts, No. The Infernal King stared at Yi Futian and refused. A mighty pressure permeated the atmosphere, colliding with the aura of Renhuang Chen. Renhuang Chen might be strong, but as the number 3 person presiding over the 8 thrones of the Dark Court, he was not afraid of Renhuang Chen. He didn't attack Yi Futian because he had some reservations regarding that mysterious teacher, not because of Yi Futian himself or any of these cultivators from Heavenly Mandate Academy. Otherwise, he would have already gone to war with them. As a cultivator from the Dark Court and as the master of the Infernal Throne, apart from those who had survived the Second Divine Tribulation and the Emperor of the Highest, not many others could scare him. As for his nephew, how could he hand him over? Whether it was from the standpoint of the Dark Court or the standpoint of the clan. If he had handed his nephew over today, wouldn't that mean the Dark Court was in fear of a junior figure? And how would he explain this to his senior brother? In the Dark World, His senior brother, the clan leader of the Infernal Clan, was an existence with transcendent status. Clearly, Futian felt the aura from the Infernal King. He knew it was highly improbable for this master of a throne from the Dark Court to relinquish the guilty party to him. Surveying the situation and judging from the makeup of the cultivators present at the moment, the Dark Court was a few degrees stronger than they were. If they started a war, they could have a high chance of losing. He glanced at the young man in black in the sky below, and his murderous intention was stronger still. "This is not over yet," said Futian coldly. He then looked at the Infernal King and said, "Please leave, all of you." The Infernal King knew what Futian meant. Obviously, the matter would not end there, and he was not so quick to write this off, but he was constrained by the current circumstances to let them go. In the future, he would find a way to execute his nephew. "Even though you have powerful backings, you need to recognize who are the masters of this world," said the Infernal King. He then waved his hand, beckoning his people to go. The master of the divine prefecture, such as Donghuang the Great, the master of the Dark Court, the evil emperor of the empty divine realm, and several other supreme cultivators were considered the true masters of this world. Perhaps there was someone behind Futian who was on the level of the great emperor, but if he was foolish enough to declare war on the dark world, then the master of the Dark Court himself may get involved personally. Before leaving, the young man in black looked at Futian coldly, as well as that strong cultivator whose divine wheel of the great path had been shattered. Both left with reluctance. They came from the Infernal Clan and were humiliated in the land of the original realm. If it weren't for the intervention of the Infernal King, they would have died here. This was such an unbearable disgrace. In the distance, dark currents tumbled and roared. Soon, those men disappeared. Watching them leave, Futian retracted his focus. Although he was now in the realm of Upper Renhuang, and his combat power had reached the level of near invincible, just a hair beneath those major figureheads, he was still a little behind if he wanted to contend with the peak forces in this world. "Let's first settle the cultivators from this world first and take them to other domains," said Futian. This domain had been destroyed by this great battle and had previously experienced unprecedented bloodbath. It was no longer suitable for any cultivators to remain here. "Yes." Someone nodded next to him. The Crimson Dragon Emperor, who stood behind him, was deep in his thoughts. Futian had done a lot already. For the people of the lower worlds, he almost wiped out the cultivators from a superpower in the dark world. If it were not for the arrival of the Infernal King at the last minute, these invaders would probably die right here. However, this time their opponent was the Dark World, and the strength of the original realm was still lesser. If their opponent unified and combined all the forces of the Dark World, it would not be something that the original realm or their ally could hope to contend. "The Heavenly Mandate Academy is still not strong enough," Futian said in a low voice, looking at the carnage that was left behind. He felt sorry that he was unable to detain the guilty party successfully. At present, the strength of the Heavenly Mandate Academy was not enough to protect the 3,000 realms of the Great Path and save it from catastrophes. This is not something that can be changed overnight. After all, the Dark Court itself had gotten involved, said the Sky River Great Elder, who was next to him. What's more, the young man called the Infernal King Uncle Master, so they must have some special relationship. If you want war, Heavenly Mandate Academy has to face the Dark World. Although the Academy is much stronger today, it has no way to compete with the Dark World and the power hidden within its shadows. Futian certainly understood that the Dark World was a force comparable to that of Divine Prefecture, and how strong was the Divine Prefecture? In the land of the 18 domains, the power of any one domain was already extraordinary enough. The sum of all 18 domains would be beyond even the wildest imagination. With the power of the Imperial Palace to boot, it was something terrifying. More recently, the Heavenly Mandate Academy's foundation was bolstered by the cultivators from Ziwei Segmentum. Otherwise, even if all the top forces in the original realm were to unite, the Heavenly Mandate Academy would not be taken seriously by anyone. If we want to contend with the Dark World, we have to join forces with the Divine Prefecture. Emperor Nan said, It's just that each of the forces in the divine prefecture has their own ideas and issues, and they divided by many internal disputes. When many forces fought against you and tried to unite divine prefecture, we saw how difficult it was. But perhaps we can start with some of the forces and convince them to develop an alliance with Heavenly Mandate Academy first. I understand. Yi Futian nodded. He understood what Emperor Nan meant. In that battle once upon a time, several major principalities stood by his side, such as Lord Luo from Outer Violet Heaven and the Sword Goddess from the Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow in the Donghua domain. These forces had remained friendly with him after the battle and might enter the Starry Cultivation Court in Ziwei Segmentum by way of Heavenly Mandate Academy at any time. Princess Donghuang is already in the lower worlds. She should have the ability to clean up and consolidate the powers in the Divine Prefecture, said Yi Futian. The Divine Prefecture is a little different. Except for the Domain Chief's manor of the 18 domains, the Imperial Palace does not directly control the top principalities of the Divine Prefecture. Unless there is a real chance for war, the Imperial Palace probably will not order them to do anything, Emperor Nan responded. That's true enough, Yi Futian responded. He had fallen into contemplation. In the land of the 18 domains, each domain chief's manor held great influence. However, when it came to forging a relationship with the Donghua domain and the Shangqing domain, the two domains he had personal experience with, his relationship with these two domain chiefs' manors was not excellent. The domain chief's manor in the Donghua domain wanted to get rid of him for a long time now, and the domain chief's manor in the Shangqing domain wanted to control him. Let's go back first, Yi Futian proposed, and everyone nodded in agreement. There was no sense for them to stay here after the cultivators of this world had left. Then, the group levitated in the air to depart. In the void, Yi Futian looked down to survey the destruction of the realm, which fed the murderous intent that was still blazing in his heart as his eyes drifted somewhere far away. Emperor Nan's words reminded him that he really must strengthen the power of the original realm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Yi Futian and the others returned to the Heavenly Mandate Academy, but the whole affair was far from over. The murderers who had ravaged the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were not apprehended and punished. Instead, they were brought back by the Dark World. Yi Futian and the others returned to the Heavenly Mandate Academy, but the whole affair was far from over. The murderers who had ravaged the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were not apprehended and punished. Instead, they were brought back by the Dark World. This matter, of course, was not over. However, the battle that took place in the lower worlds had created quite a lot of waves. Cultivators in both Divine Prefecture and the Dark World noticed the news, and all the principalities were on high alert. Although Yi Futian did not fulfill his promises, at the very least, he was working hard on making them a reality. Had it not been for the Infernal King arriving in person from the Dark Court just in time, perhaps Yi Futian would have already killed those cultivators who brought terror to the lower worlds. It was said that they were the cultivators from the Infernal Clan, a peak principality of the Dark World. In that battle, a cultivator of the tribulation level had his divine wheel of the Great Path crushed, which spoke volumes of the Heavenly Mandate Academy's resolve. As such, even though Yi Futian was not able to fulfill his promise for the time being, the cultivators from various forces in the Dark World would do well to remember the trouble they got themselves in and no longer dare to wreak havoc in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. In reality, how many of them dared to compare themselves with the Infernal Clan? Furthermore, if something happened to them, the Infernal King may not arrive in time to rescue them. After all, the Infernal King himself was a cultivator from the Infernal Clan. Likewise, the forces in the Divine Prefecture were aware of Yi Futian's determination. The Heavenly Mandate Academy, an ally, was actively fulfilling the promise made by Yi Futian to guard the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, not to control it. But for this, Yi Futian and the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy who had participated in that battle were greatly dissatisfied. They had witnessed the cruelty and bloodlust of their opponents. They had destroyed the realm and rendered it an inferno on earth. However, these killers left with their lives, which, of course, was much to their chagrin. In the starry sky world, there were many top cultivators at Ziwei the Great's cultivating court. In addition to the many powerful men from Heavenly Mandate Academy, some forces represented the divine prefecture. For example, the cultivators from the ancient royal family of Duan, the cultivators from the divine palace of Fluttering Snow, and the father and daughter duo of Lord Luo and Luo Su from Outer Violet Heaven were all in attendance. Emperor Shi, thunder-punishing Sky Lord, the Millet Emperor Li Changxing, and the others had been comprehending the mystery of this starry sky all along to see if they could comprehend something from it. After all, the Great Emperor was an irresistible allure for any top-level cultivators. They hoped that in perceiving the meaning of the Great Emperor, they might have the opportunity to explore the mystery of a higher realm. At this time, Yi Futian and the others had returned as well. Although they were eager for revenge, Yi Futian understood the situation clearly. He knew the limit of his own strength. What could he use to attack the forces in the Dark World? The strength of Heavenly Mandate Academy was far from enough. Emperor Yi. At this moment, in the starry sky, several beautiful ladies turned to look at Yi Futian. They were the three goddesses from the divine palace of Fluttering Snow, Qin Qing, Jiang Yueli, and Chu Hanshi. The sword goddess was not far in the sky above them. She was comprehending the will hidden within this starry sky world. The higher a person's realm, the more they could sense that unfathomable aura. Vaguely, they could perceive that this starry sky seemed to be transformed by the will of the gods in heaven. Although they were not able to detect anything solid, it did bring them some insights. For some lucky person, perhaps an epiphany could be experienced. Yi Futian nodded to the goddesses, then said to Jiang Yueli, Goddess Yueli has been in the 8th realm for many years and is the existence closest to the peak of Renhuang. I wonder if this starry sky world could help the goddess take that one last step. I'm afraid it's a bit difficult than that. Jiang Yueli smiled gently while looking at Yi Futian. She said, This last step is also the most difficult step to take. Once this step is taken, one then embarks on the path to higher pursuits. However, under this starry sky, a mysterious and unpredictable power is perceived. I hope I could comprehend something from it. She then smiled and continued as if she had remembered something, Don't keep talking about me. When I saw Emperor Yi last, I never thought that your strength would grow so rapidly. Today, your combat effectiveness should be well above mine. Yi Futian's growth was indeed frightening. In her eyes, he was still a young genius talent who used to tag along with Li Changxing and Zhong Chan. However, now he was stranger than her even if he was behind in realm. Goddess Yueli is overly modest. I am only in the 7th realm, quite a bit below the goddess still, Yi Futian replied. Next to them, Qin Qing and Chu Hanshi were both astounded by Yi Futian's growth. They knew that their senior sister was right. Yi Futian's combat effectiveness was already far above them. Now, other than the major figureheads, it's hard for anyone to compete with him. Once upon a time, he was chased and threatened by Ning Hua, who did everything to suppress him. But today, if the two were to meet again in battle, Ning Hua probably wouldn't be able to defeat Yi Futian. Whatever power that the goddesses want to perceive, I can urge the divine power of the starry sky so that the goddesses may perceive it more clearly, said Yi Futian. The three of them were speechless when they heard what he said. It seemed that Yi Futian was in full control of this starry sky world. At this time, the sword goddess, who was above in the sky, came over to Yi Futian and said, Is the will of Ziwei the Great still in this starry sky world? Yi Futian bowed slightly toward the sword goddess, extremely courteous, and replied, To answer Elder's question, the will of Ziwei the Great has been completely integrated with this starry sky world. As long as this starry sky world exists, then the will of the Great Emperor exists with it also, unless the starry sky world is vanquished somehow. However, what kind of tribulation would be able to vanquish this world? That would probably be something that requires the intervention from the Great Emperor. Here, he could leverage the starry sky in battle. Back then, even the original palace lord of Ziwei Imperial Palace was killed by him when he leveraged this power. Therefore, only the likes of the Great Emperor might stand a chance to destroy this starry sky, anyone else would perish. The sword goddess nodded gently and understood everything. This was probably the reason why she had sensed a mysterious and unpredictable force in this starry sky. "May I perceive it a little more clearly?" the sword goddess asked. "Of course," replied Yi Futian. "Elder, please follow me." "What then?" The sword goddess nodded as the two moved higher up. The face of Ziwei the Great was still there, and they appeared just under that massive visage. Yi Futian looked up at the starry sky, and the boundless sky suddenly brightened up a few degrees more. As the stars shone, the infinite divine glory of the stars showered upon the sword goddess, who was beside him. At this moment, the sword goddess raised her head to look at the starry sky. She stretched out her hand to touch the starlight, and that feeling became even stronger. Many cultivators now looked at them and marveled at Yi Futian's absolute control over this starry sky. A turn of his thought could attract the divine glory of the starry sky. Even the will of the great emperor could be summoned. After a long while, the sword goddess said to Yi Futian, "Thank you very much. Elder is being too formal." As Yi Futian moved his thoughts, the starry divine light gradually dissipated. He continued, "In this starry sky world, aside from these imperial stars, many stars contain some type of particular powers, suitable for many in the Renhuang realm to comprehend. However, this was not necessary for someone like yourself and your realm. However, if you agree, people from Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow may come here to cultivate and use this place as a place for cultivation." The sword goddess stared at Yi Futian, wondering if he meant for the cultivators of Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow to cultivate here. Once he saw the sharpness in her eyes, Yi Futian continued, "The Heavenly Mandate Academy could be an ally with Divine Palace of Fluttering Snow. Now that chaos reign over the original realm, sooner or later, it will spread to the Divine Prefecture and the rest of the world." The sword goddess understood Yi Futian's meaning instantly. While her eyes were still fastened on Yi Futian, she then nodded and said, "Very well." Clearly, she was willing to accept him as an ally. In fact, she was very optimistic about Yi Futian's future prospects. Chapter 2285. The Future? Chapter 2285. The future Yi Futian's potential was clear enough to the Divine Prefecture. But the cultivators from the Dark World and Empty Divine Realm, too, could see his potential and the future that awaited him. He possessed various kinds of imperial-level inheritances, all of which were lusted after by many enchanting geniuses, but none could obtain and control them except Yi Futian. Such a stunning figure would be another legend in the making. There was even a chance for him to prove the realm in the supremacy of the way. But today's Yi Futian was still in a period of development, and because he was limited to his own strength, he needed allies. The kind of alliance formed at a time like this would naturally be the most stable. Now, the sword goddess cultivation had reached a bottleneck. After the peak of Renhuang, the crossing of the divine tribulation follows, which would be a real challenge unimaginably difficult to accomplish. Perhaps, Yi Futian may be able to help her in the future. It was an opportunity for Yi Futian as well as for herself. "Thank you, Elder." Yi Futian bowed slightly to the sword goddess. The sword goddess had strong cultivation and was definitely a powerful ally. "I'll talk to the other elders," Yi Futian said again, and the sword goddess nodded. "Go," she said. Obviously, she understood that Yi Futian wanted to strengthen the power of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The original realm used to be nothing. But since its unification under Yi Futian, with the power of Ziwei Segmentum behind him, the original realm was now a mighty force. As it continued to seek allies, the Heavenly Mandate Academy would become stronger still. Compared with other principalities in the Divine Prefecture, the Academy had already surpassed most of them. Even the Domain Chief's manor was no longer a competition unless it recruited some powerful cultivators who had survived the second divine tribulation of the Great Path. Once such an existence had been produced by the Heavenly Mandate Academy, it would immediately become one of the most powerful principalities in the Divine Prefecture. Furthermore, this was not taking into consideration that teacher from Four Corner Village. If that teacher was included, then the Heavenly Mandate Academy could be regarded as a pinnacle principality. However, The teacher seemed to live outside of this world and had no interest in participating in secular affairs. Even though he made an appearance in that battle in the original realm, it was only for protecting Yi Futian, and he did not demonstrate his full strength. Yi Futian found the Duan family as well. Duan Tianxiong from the ancient royal family of Duan agreed readily enough. He was on Yi Futian's side in that battle and would never refuse such a request. In addition, he was already quite optimistic about Yi Futian when they were still in the divine prefecture. Later, he had witnessed the strength and the cultivation of the teacher from Four Corner Village, coupled with more and more revelations of Yi Futian's enchanting talents. He would obviously never miss an opportunity to form such a powerful alliance with the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Finally, Yi Futian came to Emperor Shi and bowed, saying, "Emperor Shi, I heard what you said just now. Do you want me to become an ally of the Academy as well?" Emperor Shi smiled and asked Yi Futian. "I dare not." Yi Futian shook his head and said, "My life was saved by the elder, or I may very well have already perished in the battle at Donghua Domain. Many of our friends also owed the elder for sheltering them in their time of needs, so I am in no position to demand anything from you. I only wanted to let you know that the elder and cultivators from Turtle Deity Island are more than welcome to cultivate at Ziwei Imperial Palace anytime you wish. You can also go to Four Corner Village if you wish. There are some cultivation grounds in the village that may be suitable for Renhuang from Turtle Deity Island." Emperor Shi smiled and nodded. "If I have the opportunity, I would also like to visit the teacher in the village, but I don't know if he would see it as a disturbance to his cultivation." "If Emperor Shi were to visit in person, the teacher should be willing to receive you," Yi Futian replied. As for Emperor Shi and the Millet Emperor, Yi Futian would not mention anything about the alliance. He had previously cultivated at Wangshan Watchtower, and he owed Emperor Shi his life. So, he wouldn't talk to them about the alliance because their relationships were different. Moreover, even if he didn't mention it in time of real crisis, Emperor Shi, the Millet Emperor, and the others would not stand idly by. All of them were there in the last battle. "Futian." Emperor Shi looked at Yi Futian and suddenly asked, "You now have comprehended the will of many great emperors, and your understanding is deeper than most, so the speed of your cultivation is much faster than of ordinary people. How many years will it take you to reach the peak of Renhuang?" "Within 20 years, said Yi Futian. 20 years, Emperor Shi nodded. If he could really do it in 20 years, it would be considered extremely fast. With Yi Futian's combat effectiveness, once he stepped into the peak of Renhuang, he would unlikely to find any opponents beneath cultivators of the tribulation level. "How about divine tribulations?" Emperor Shi asked again. Yi Futian shook his head. "I haven't even touched the peak of Renhuang. I have no idea how long it will be for me to cross the divine tribulations. Which level do you think you can reach?" Emperor Shi looked at him and asked. When he was crossing the divine tribulation of the Great Path on Turtle Deity Island, it was fraught with danger. He felt that was already his limit, and his cultivation had reached its limit. He was quite satisfied with his own progress. Even if he stayed at this level, he would still be one of the top cultivators in the world. However, any cultivator would want to go to higher ground and see further, and he was just a few steps away from the highest point. But these couple of steps were insurmountable for the majority of the people. Yi Futian revealed a look of contemplation as if recalling his youth. He thought of his adoptive father. After having experienced so much, the memories of the past were like a century ago and had become a little obscured with time. But some things had already been seared inside of him. He was destined for greatness, and he believed in his adoptive father and himself. He knew that in time he would reach that point. "Imperial," Yi Futian looked at Emperor Shi. Emperor Shi looked at Yi Futian's eyes and saw there was great confidence in the depth of those eyes. With this one word, how many in the world dared to say that they were capable of setting foot in that realm? Even those who had survived the second divine tribulation of the Great Path dared not to lay so bold a claim. But Yi Futian had bluntly stated that he could get there. Emperor Shi was touched in his heart. This youngster had such unshakable confidence in himself. "I can't wait to see it," Emperor Shi said with a smile and some expectations. At this moment, an extremely powerful aura suddenly came upon them, causing Emperor Shi and Yi Futian to end their conversation. They looked far into the distance and saw that a figure was bathing in an incomparable starry glow under the stars. Above the starry sky, an imperial star was emitting magnificent divine glory. As the imperial star's divine glory descended on that cultivator, terrible changes took place in him as his aura continued to become stronger. Uncle Tai. Yi Futian had a surprised look on his face, as that cultivator who bathed in divine glory was Blind Tai. An indescribable golden glory burst from Blind Tai, and the shape of the divine hammer could be faintly made out, filled with shocking power. He was covered with golden armor, shining light streaming all around him. An even more perfect aura now spread out from him. The cultivators in Four Corner Village were looking there as well, feeling quite emotional. Blind Tai was about to make a breakthrough. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2286, Blind Tai's Breakthrough. Chapter 2286, Blind Tai's Breakthrough in the Starry Sky. Many cultivators looked yonder, and their hearts were disturbed. Blind Tai was the first person Yi Futian helped after he communicated with the Imperial Star, and he gave that Imperial Star to Blind Tai. Later, Blind Tai inherited the will of the Imperial Star. Even after everything was over, he often bathed in the Imperial Star to cultivate. Since then, he had not stopped cultivating. Now, he was about to break through the realm. He was already an upper Renhuang in the 8th realm. This breakthrough meant that he would step onto the peak of Renhuang with a perfect great path. It was a leap that would allow him to become a major figure among the giants, shoulder to shoulder with cultivators from many top principalities in the Divine Prefecture. Back then, the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, who betrayed and blinded him, was also at the peak of Renhuang. After this step, his cultivation would be equivalent to that of the great elder, and Moku would no longer be a contender. The breakthrough of Blind Tai also excited so many others. He was also the first person to break through the shackles of the realm in the Starry Sky world. The event itself held extraordinary significance. This, inevitably, encouraged the other cultivators to increase their own expectations. No one was happier to see this than Old Ma. When he was in the village, Blind Tai had the best relationship with him, and they were very close friends. Even Tai Tu and Xiao Ling were childhood sweethearts. No one understood better than him the pain that Blind Tai had endured over the years. Witnessing this day, Old Ma was happy for him, and a bright smile hovered around the corner of his eyes. Next to Old Ma were Feng Gai, Gu Huai, and some others. This guy was lucky beyond belief, Feng Gai said with a smile. It's not just luck. Old Ma said, he was betrayed once upon a time, and when he returned to the village, he almost lost his cultivation. After the teacher cured him, he began to recover his state of mind. For many years he forged as a blacksmith, cultivating his mind and soul. After so many years, hatred is no longer his only focus. He came out of the village to protect Futian, and because of that, he received this opportunity and the achievement of this day. Perhaps this is all fate. Indeed. Feng Gai smiled and nodded. The luck was true enough, but everything was destined to be this way. Whether it was a coincidence or fate, Blind Tai would become another top cultivator in the village after Old Ma. After Blind Tai's breakthrough, apart from the teacher, Four Corner Village would have two giant figures. Not only did they need to keep up, but those youngsters need to grow up quickly. We have to work hard too, Feng Gai smiled and said to those who were around him. Blind Tai had now surpassed him. The person next to him smiled and nodded, looking towards Blind Tai. The divine glory of the Imperial Star rushed madly into his body as Blind Tai was suspended in midair. The armor on his body seemed to be getting brighter and more radiant. He now resembled a god of war. The aura from his body was constantly increasing in strength. The roar of the great path came from him. It was as if he was resonating with the starry sky. The divine light enveloped the boundless space, seemed to have turned it into a divine body of the great path, blooming with divine glory. This state lasted for quite a while and was accompanied by the endless radiance that lit up the starry sky. As the divine light on the imperial star was not there, even as Blind Tai was still suspended in the air, his body seemed to have calmed down. The divine light on his body retracted, though his entire body was still as bright as a divine body. He did it. Those cultivators in the starry sky shuddered. After a while, Blind Tai moved his body as his head raised slightly. Although he could not see, his perception had become much sharper. Congratulations! Many cultivators put their hands together and greeted Blind Tai, congratulating him on the breakthrough. He was the first person after Yi Futian to break through the realm in the starry sky world. People from Four Corner Village arrived, and Old Ma smiled, saying, "Not bad. Blind Tai, now you are much better than us old guys," Fong Gai said with a smile. They were all from Four Corner Village and they were happy for him. However, after the breakthrough, Blind Tai did not feel too much excitement and appeared rather calm. "Uncle Tai, congratulations." Yi Futian smiled and greeted him as well. Blind Tai turned around, facing where Yi Futian's voice was coming from. "Futian, thank you," he said. His words sounded a bit heavy, but they were from the heart. Yi Futian was sheltered by Four Corner Village, but he had done a lot for the village in return. Today, he was able to make a breakthrough because of Yi Futian. "Uncle Tai, don't say that. We are like family, there is no need for thank yous," Yi Futian said with a smile, and Blind Tai nodded emphatically. That's right, the people in Four Corner Village were a family of their own. Although Yi Futian entered the village later, Four Corner Village had already accepted him fully and regarded him as a member of the village. "After your breakthrough, Moku is probably trembling right now," said Fong Gu. The debt of yesteryears would be accounted for by Blind Tai sooner or later. Now that he had witnessed the peak of Renhuang, he would no doubt seek revenge at some point. How could Blind Tai possibly forget what Moku and the Demon Cloud clan did back then? A terrible coercive spirit came out of Blind Tai. Moku was someone he must personally execute. The Demon Cloud clan must be held accountable for what they did to Uncle Tai. However, Uncle Tai has just broken through, and the priority has to be stabilizing the realm. But the power on this imperial star can still be used, Yi Futian said with a smile. Blind Tai nodded. He hadn't lost himself because of the breakthrough. Although in this realm, killing Moku was not a problem at all for him, the strength of the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was formidable. To kill him, his strength needed to be fortified some more. "Uncle Fong, the Demon Cloud clan should still be in the land of the original realm, right?" Yi Futian asked Fong Gai, who was next to him. "It's possible," Fong Gai nodded. Now that the original realm has gone through such a change, with all the principalities of the Divine Prefecture still there, the Demon Cloud clan probably won't want to leave and may cultivate in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Yi Futian nodded. The power of Heavenly Mandate Academy alone could destroy the Demon Cloud clan outright, but this was Uncle Tai's goal for a long time. He ought to have a chance to accomplish it himself, with them on the side to assist. "Uncle Fong, please go back to the academy and have them find out the whereabouts of the Demon Cloud clan, see if they can find out where they are currently," said Yi Futian. "No problem," Fong Gai nodded. Now Yi Futian was acting even more like a leader in his demeanor. Fong Gai was delighted to see Yi Futian behave like this. This was the only way he could truly become the leader of a dominant force. The Heavenly Mandate Academy and Four Corner Village were all waiting for him to mature into his role. As formidable as he was, the teacher of the Four Corner Village did not care much for mundane affairs. Fong Gai could see that the village would eventually belong to Yi Futian in the future, and not him or Old Ma. Obviously, Old Ma had nothing to say about Yi Futian other than helping him, as he had done this since the beginning. Blind Tai's breakthrough would only be better for Yi Futian in the future. Coupled with the teacher's protection, some things did not have to be said out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2287, Revenge. Chapter 2287, Revenge, the central emperor realm of the 9 supreme imperial realms, was still the realm with the most cultivators. Although the central emperor realm was now under the rule of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, there were still many principalities from the divine prefecture that stayed in the central emperor realm to cultivate. The demon cloud was also above the central emperor realm. In an ancient city inside the central emperor realm, the great elder of the demon cloud was cultivating. In recent days, they had been keeping a low profile. Not only them, but the principalities of the entire divine prefecture were now much quieter than before. No one was out looking for trouble. The memory of that battle was fresh in their minds. Not long ago, Futian and the many cultivators under his command had almost wiped out several Renhuang cultivators from one of the top forces in the Dark World. Obviously, the principalities from Divine Prefecture were hesitant to cause any more trouble. Strictly speaking, the demon cloud had had some previous entanglements with Futian. When he was comprehending the corpse of Xinjia, the great emperor in Shangqing domain, Emoku was incredibly rude to Futian. Later they had gone to Four Corner Village as well. Therefore, the demon cloud would not be causing any waves in the original realm. After all, the original realm was now Futian's territory. However, at this time, the great elder, who was cultivating, suddenly frowned, and there was a slight sense of unease. It was as if he was agitated. Demonic clouds tumbled and tossed all around him as his brows knitted tightly together. Suddenly, his eyes opened, and those dark eyes stared into the distance. His expression changed. "Go," the great elder of the demon cloud said. He disappeared from where he was only to reappear in front of Emoku. With a wave of his hand, a group of his people was taken directly into the void. In an instant, his body rushed straight into the sky, descended high above the firmament. But at the same time, the sky suddenly seemed sealed shut as wisps of terrifying starry divine light descending in glory, turning into a starry light screen, shuttering that corner of the space. A figure appeared high above, and it was Renhuang Chen who had directly locked down this area. The great elder of the demon cloud stopped and hovered in midair, with Missouri Cook close behind him. Both of them were powerful cultivators from the demon cloud, and neither of them looked pleased. Renhuang Chen, the tribulation-level cultivator from Ziwei Segmentum, had blocked them in. Looking further ahead, a group of cultivators came in mighty formation. The man in the lead, clad in white and with a head of white hair, was Futian. Next to him was a plainly dressed middle-aged man. Though he could not see, there was an astonishing aura permeating from the man's body. Both the great elder of the demon cloud and Emoku could feel a faint sense of oppression. The man was none other than Blind Tai. Blind Tai couldn't see, but when he stood there, Emoku felt as if someone's stare had bored into his being. The feeling was so clear that he instinctively knew who it was. Even though the man didn't use his eyes, Emoku felt like the sensation was sharper than any stare. "You have broken through the realm." Emoku could feel the power from Blind Tai, and the expression on his face was priceless. A long time ago, he had severely injured Blind Tai and wounded his eyes. Not only did Blind Tai recover from such a mortal blow, but now he had broken the shackles of the realm and set foot on the 9th realm to witness the perfect consummation of the Renhuang realm. This was the realm that he dreamed of, but now, Blind Tai had stepped into this realm before him. He was coming for him. He knew very well why the other man was here, to seek revenge for the past. The great elder of the demon cloud sensed it as well. He stared at Blind Tai and wondered just what kind of chance did he stumble upon to break the shackles of the realm so quickly and set foot on the peak of Renhuang. Was all of this possible because of the starry cultivation court? Blind Tai continued forward as the divine light of the great path burst out from him, and there was unbridled anger in this divine light. He faced Emoku and said, "The time of reckoning has come for what happened before." The moment his voice fell, a terrifying brilliance of the great path shot out from Blind Tai towards every crevice within the starry light screen. Like a god of war, his body seemed to be covered with a layer of golden armor. In the starry sky world, Blind Tai had obtained power from the inheritance of a great emperor. Although it was not from Ziwei the Great himself, this emperor was an imperial-level existence under the command of Ziwei the Great. An infinite and domineering god of war gradually condensed and emerged, appearing high above the sky. Like a true deity, a shocking power erupted from his body, enough to suppress and awe the world and everything inside it. The divine hammer in his hand showed a brilliant and incomparable glory that radiated outward, turning into rounds of light screens that wandered between heaven and earth. Blind Tai took a step forward and stood on high ground. His figure seemed to overlap with the figure of that heavenly deity. At this moment, Emoku, who had cultivated with Blind Tai once upon a time, felt an irresistible heavenly might. He stared at the man in the void and realized that this was no longer the brother of yesteryear but a powerful existence at the peak of Renhuang. The great elder of Demon Cloud moved forward, blocking the place where the divine light had landed. The mighty demonic power on his body was roaring and howling with great menace. An overwhelming demonic shadow seemed to sweep into the sky, contending with that deity in the void, refusing to back down. But at this moment, wisps of spatial divine light descended, covering the area where he was at. Another figure appeared in front of the great elder of the Demon Cloud. It was Old Ma. Once, you blinded his eyes and robbed the divine methods of Four Corner Village. Now it's time to settle these transgressions. Let them resolve their differences between them, and don't worry, it's not your turn yet, Old Ma said lightly. Divine glory of the space unleashed madly, shrouding the vast void. The great elder of the Demon Cloud became alert and soared into the sky. However, at the same moment, Blind Tai made his move in the void. That heavenly being, holding the divine hammer of the protector, directly smashing down into the space below. Boom! A dull thud resounded between heaven and earth. A destructive might swept down, blasting below, suppressing an entire land to wipe out everything within it. Watch out! The great elder of the Demon Cloud shouted, but he was waylaid by Old Ma, unable to stop the attack from Blind Tai. Emoku roared, and a demonic double seemed to have materialized, blocking above him. But the instant the divine light fell, the demonic shadow was crushed and pulverized. In the next moment, the force fell on Emoku, penetrating his physical body and his spiritual soul. No, Emoku looked extremely fearful and let out a miserable roar. In the next moment, his body was shattered immediately. It vanished like ash and smoke as his spiritual soul also collapsed. Under the attack of that power, he had no way to stop it at all. Unable to even stop a single blow, he was directly obliterated. His old acquaintance didn't say another word and didn't waste any time. But he was not the only one. In the vicinity, under the sweep of the divine light, all the cultivators from the Demon Cloud were wiped out, as each and every one of them disappeared as if they had never existed in the first place. Where the divine light passed, none survived. All were punished by death. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Emoku! The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan broke through Old Ma's defenses and looked down at the figure disappearing into thin air. His eyes were bloodshot, and power rolled out from him in violent waves. Emoku! The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan broke through Old Ma's defenses and looked down at the figure disappearing into thin air. His eyes were bloodshot, and power rolled out from him in violent waves. Emoku had been slain like this. He had been killed without a chance to react. And it was not only Emoku, other cultivators of the Demon Cloud clan had been killed by a single attack as well. They had all been slain. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan raised his head and looked up at Blind Tai. His deep, dark eyes were filled to the brim with murderous intent. However, Blind Tai ignored him. This hammer had been his obsession for so many years, but he felt very little joy or appreciation in his heart. He felt only calm. In the past, he and Emoku had been very close and had called each other brothers. But he never would have thought that he was plotting against him. It was only through the divine art of spying that he had saved his own life. For so many years, he had dreamed that he would kill Emoku and get revenge one day. Now he had finally done it. He had resolved a matter that he had held close to his heart. Futian and the others looked at Blind Tai and seemed to sense his state of mind. There was no sorrow there, no joy. Perhaps it was a kind of relief. Fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. If it had not been for the things that had happened back then, he probably would not have returned to the village, and his state of mind would not have been purified. And now, he would not have had the chance to reach the 9th tier of the Renhuang Plain. Everything had been decided by fate. Emoka had wasted his talent scheming back then, doing all that he could. And yet, a single hammer had still frightened him to death. So what did all the time he had spent back then matter in the end? Blind Tai faced towards where the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was. He spat out his words, saying, "Uncle Ma, let me come over there." Old Ma and the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan were facing each other. He nodded when he heard Blind Tai's words, then moved off to the side, opening up a path to let him through. After he stepped aside, Blind Tai and the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan were facing each other. One was above the other people. Terrifying power of the great path was seeping out from both of them. "You were the one behind everything that happened back then. You made Emoka do it?" said Blind Tai. His voice was still calm. It was as if he was not too concerned by all of this. It seemed like he just wanted to bring it to an end. Yes, the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan admitted openly. Of course they had been his orders. If it had not been for him, how could Emoka have done it? And how could he have succeeded? After all, Blind Tai had been no ordinary figure back then. Blind Tai said no more. He just nodded calmly. Neither of them liked to talk much. They obviously did not need to say very much either. This was a matter of life and death. One of the two of them would definitely die. But the one who would die would probably be the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan. With the cultivators around him, he had no way to slay Blind Tai. So the outcome already seemed to be decided. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan would die. Actually, everyone understood that this made sense, including the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan. When the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy arrived, along with a person at the tribulation level, how could he hope to kill Blind Tai? Back during the battle of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, you said that the people of the Divine Prefecture were slaughtering each other. But now, you led the Heavenly Mandate Academy in a battle against the Upper Divine Prefecture. Excellent, said the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan coldly. But as he said this, he already felt a little bit timid. They had not even started fighting, and he was already feeling timid. That was why he had said that. Otherwise, the slaughter would have started. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan understood his fate. This was a grudge between you and Four Corner Village. What did the Heavenly Mandate Academy have to do with it? Said Old Ma, sweeping his gaze over the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan. Back then, you ruined his eyes, almost killing him, and stole the divine item of Four Corner Village. What is wrong with us coming to repay our debts now? Why did people from the Heavenly Mandate Academy get involved in this dispute with Four Corner Village? Asked the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, looking up in the curtain of stars in the sky. If it were not for that starry curtain, he would not have to make a last stand here. He could have escaped. Unfortunately for you, I am a member of the village. So, I naturally had the right to get involved in this affair, said Yi Futian, looking at the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan from across the distance. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan looked back at him. Surging demonic power swept out from him, filling the entire vast area with his demonic aura. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's body suddenly disappeared, transforming into a beam of demonic light that pierced through the air. Yi Futian frowned. He could clearly feel a threatening will. Just as he was preparing to move, a figure descended beside him. It was Renhuang Chen, who was covered in starlight and transformed into a protective light curtain that wrapped around Yi Futian. However, the beam of demonic light shot up into the sky, as if it had changed direction instantaneously, then rushed onward into the high distance. Clearly, the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's target was not Yi Futian. That had been a diversion so that he could escape the area. His anger and his murderous intent had been real, but his desire to survive by leaving was even more real. So the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan had not sought revenge, he had sought to flee. Bang! A booming sound split the air as a black hammer appeared up in the air and smashed into the curtain of stars, making cracks. That was naturally the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's attack. He wanted to break open this forbidding power and flee the area that he was imprisoned in. But could he do it? The starlight that was upon Renhuang Chen flashed as he raised his scepter. Suddenly, brilliant starlight shot up straight into the air, repairing the places on the starlight curtain that had been damaged. In a flash, it was as good as new again. The repaired pieces seemed like they were a part of the original. If the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan tried to destroy it, it would be nearly impossible, as the difference in levels was too great. Just then, divine light burst forth, flowing between heaven and earth. A mighty divine force descended. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's expression changed as he looked over in that direction and saw that blind Tai seemed to have melded with the body of a god. His body was covered in golden armor, and unimaginable divine power was radiating from him. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan could even sense a hint of the aura of a great emperor about him. Boom! A divine hammer fell from the sky, smashing into the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan. The terrifying amount of pressure made the space around him freeze. And the elder himself was no different as he sensed this supernatural power. It seems that your combat ability now measures among the greatest, uncle. That is incredible, said Yi Futian as he looked at the divine light. As soon as he said this, the hammer fell again, and monstrous figures appeared in the air. But they could not block this attack. There was another loud booming sound, and the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was sent flying backward. The space where he had been before seemed to split as the terrifying divine light raged through the air. Blind Tai seemed to have transformed into a god. He continued walking forward, swinging the hammer once again and slamming it into the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan as smoothly as flowing water. It was simple yet overpowering. He possessed limitless strength. Boom! Another dull boom rang out, and the air seemed to shatter as the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was sent flying once again, blood pouring from his mouth. It seemed like he had been crushed and had no more power to resist. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2289. Thoughts. Chapter 2289. Thoughts. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was no weakling. On the contrary, he was one of the strongest figures in the Shangqing domain. He dominated his generation. But at that moment, blind Tai no longer seemed like a Renhuang who was close to breaking through to the 9th tier. In fact, he seemed like he had already done so many years ago and had developed his profound powers for a long time. What kind of power had the inheritance of the Imperial Star given him? Boom! Beams of burning divine radiance spread out from the figures of the gods of war up in the air, sweeping out through the heavens and the earth and covering a vast area. Many arms appeared up in the air. They were the arms of gods. The divine hammer of the protector appeared, and images of divine hammers appeared in all those arms right afterward. It seemed as if each hammer contained unimaginable power. They fell accompanied by divine light. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, the top cultivator of the Demon Cloud clan, could sense a deadly threat. He had a strange feeling. It was like he was not facing blind Tai but an actual god. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan had swept away all before him and had never been in such desperate circumstances before. Someone younger than him had reached his level. Although he had just broken through to this level, he was still able to crush him. He had beaten him from head to toe and had made it so that he had not even been able to unleash his own power. What kind of humiliation was this? But the current humiliation was nothing. As of right now, his very life was in danger. The area was sealed off, and so he could not escape. He would truly be smashed to death by blind Tai's hammers here. Boom! The hammers crashed down, and the heavens and the earth shook. It seemed as if everything would be destroyed. There came a great roaring sound from the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's body as the image of a demon god appeared behind him. Its many demonic arms reached up into the sky. The demonic handprints were incomparably powerful by themselves, and many of the arms held great black divine hammers. They moved away from him, smashing into the air and causing beams of black light to appear. The golden hammers fell, and the two forces collided together. Infinite divine light exploded outward when they clashed. It seemed as if the earth and the sky would split open. The demonic arms were all shattered wildly as the giant hammer went among them and destroyed everything. Bang! As this attack fell, it seemed as if everything was flattened. The great elder of the Demon Cloud clan was sent flying once again. His aura wavered, and his face had grown pale. His aura of the Great Path was no longer as sturdy as it had been. But the images of even more divine hammers appeared in the air, covering the sky in all directions. Blind Tai, who had transformed into a form like that of a god, was filled with limitless power. It was like the will of a great emperor had infused his strength. He had transformed into the master of this land. He waved his arms, and the hammers danced once again. His movements were still simple and graceful, but the divine power that burst forth in the air was still enough to shock even the greatest of figures. Countless beams of light all fell towards the same place. The figure of the demonic god tried to block them, but as the light fell, the hammers smashed down as well. Suddenly, the demonic figure split open and shattered. The hammers continued downward and smashed into the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan's body. He was an incredibly powerful figure, and his flesh had already become the way. So even suffering a direct hit from these hammers was not enough to instantly kill him. But his body shook violently, and the hammers kept on coming, slamming into him over and over again. His expression kept changing. It was as if he was full of regret. Then, divine light pierced his body. As the countless beams of light shot through him, the great elder's body started to disintegrate until he was destroyed. He had been killed on the spot. After the great elder had been slain, everything seemed to become calm. The violent atmosphere dissipated, and everything was like it had been before. Blind Tai stood calmly up in the sky. He still felt none of the pleasure of his great vengeance. On the outside, he looked extremely calm. After a period of silence, he turned and walked calmly over to Futian's side as if none of what had just transpired had happened. "Congratulations, Uncle Tai," said Futian with a slight smile. Now, Blind Tai would be able to let go of his heart's obsession. He, the people of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, and the people of Four Corner Village had all watched this battle but had not interfered. They had let Blind Tai achieve his own vengeance. And he had succeeded. He had used his overwhelming strength to slaughter the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, Emoku, and more, resolving his grudge from many years ago. Old Ma and the others came over, patting Blind Tai on the shoulder. They had been greatly shocked by this battle as well. Even Old Ma had not been able to deal with the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, but Blind Tai had crushed him all by himself. Moreover, the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan had had no power to resist him. He had been overpowered and destroyed. From this, it could be seen that Blind Tai had now become much more powerful than Old Ma. It looked like the inheritance of the Imperial Star was far from ordinary. It had given Blind Tai combat abilities beyond those of people on his level. He had been able to slay the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan, who had been at the peak of the Renhuang Plain for many years. At that moment, the curtain of starlight dissipated. Many cultivators appeared in different places up in the air. They had come from different camps. All of them were top figures from the Divine Prefecture. After sensing the battle that was taking place here, the top figures from the Central Imperial Realm had come to observe the battle. All of them had been shocked by what happened. Blind Tai of Four Corner Village had broken through to the next level. Not only had he done that, but he had killed the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan right out. It seemed like the inheritance of the Imperial Star had given him much. Unfortunately, the cultivation court of Great Emperor Ziwei was already under Futian's control. They could not go there to cultivate. Futian and the others transformed into beams of light and soon disappeared. But the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture did not leave. Instead, they watched down below. One of the top powers of the Shangqing domain had been destroyed like this and would never return. A group of people was gathering together up in the sky. These were cultivators from the Shangqing domain, including Emperor Zhou Mu, the vice chief. In addition, cultivators from the Nanhai family were there too. The Demon Cloud clan had been a top force of the Shangqing domain, and yet it had been destroyed like this. The shock that this gave them was very fierce indeed. Moreover, the one who had destroyed them was Blind Tai of Four Corner Village, and many of the forces of the Shangqing domain had conflicts with Four Corner Village. They had once gone and laid siege to it until they were forced to flee by the master. The cultivators of the Nanhai family were even more conflicted. Now, Yi Futian had led Blind Tai and the others to destroy the Demon Cloud clan. Afterward, would he want to destroy them as well? A group of people from the Muyun family was there as well. They had seen Blind Tai become an even more powerful figure and slay the great elder of the Demon Cloud clan. It was obvious how they felt about this. Muyun Lan had once fought Blind Tai in the Shangqing domain, and their powers had been evenly matched. But now, if Muyun Lan stood before Blind Tai, he would not even be able to withstand a single hammer blow. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2290, Visitors. Chapter 2290, Visitors. After slaying the great elder of Demon Cloud, Yi Futian and the others returned to the Heavenly Mandate Academy, but the incident had caused quite a stir in the original realm. Many top figures from the Central Emperor realm had paid close attention to the battle, and the news spread rapidly. In Heavenly Mandate Academy, Yi Futian and the others had just returned. Before they had a chance to depart to the Ziwei segmentum, they were informed that some visitors had arrived to request a meeting with him. In front of the main hall, Yi Futian scanned with his divine consciousness and saw a group of people outside the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Seeing their presence, Yi Futian frowned. Likewise, Old Ma and Blind Tai also raised their eyebrows. Then, Old Ma huffed contemptuously and said, "What are they doing here? Since they are here already, tell them to come in." Yi Futian didn't seem to care and gave the instruction casually. Immediately, someone went to carry out the order. After a while, someone came around, and Yi Futian saw that the person was Muyun Long. Behind him was Muyun Lan, but he appeared unenthusiastic. Both of his hands were folded behind him as he looked toward Yi Futian and Blind Tai. His expression appeared somewhat conflicted. "How dare you show your faces here?" Fang Gai said sarcastically, looking at Muyun Long. All the discords in the past were caused by Muyun Long, otherwise, they would still be cultivating in the village and there would be no subsequent events. Muyun Long was full of ambition, wanting to take over the village, even having the idea to replace the teacher. But now, that ambition appeared rather ludicrous. Just Muyun Long alone wanted to replace the teacher? The teacher was the totem of the village, its true spiritual leader. As long as he was there, Four Corner Village would always be what it always had been, and no one would challenge it. In fact, Muyun Long was very embarrassed as well, but he came despite this. He had seen the teacher descended on the land of the original realm and took control of Shunjia the Great Emperor, erupting with shocking combat power. When some had guessed that the teacher was in the imperial realm, he was greatly shocked and then taken over by endless regrets. It was ridiculous that they rebelled against Four Corner Village and left, and even more ridiculous that he had once wanted to replace the teacher in the village. Now, they had witnessed Blind Tai's breakthrough and ascension to the peak of Renhuang. Muyun Long's cultivation was far deeper than Blind Tai's, even his eldest, Muyun Lan, whose cultivation was not beneath that of Blind Tai. In the battle at the Shangqing domain, though he was unable to suppress Blind Tai, the score was pretty even. However, the gap had been widened now. Understandably, he was agitated by how things turned out. If they were still cultivating in the village, the teacher and the imperial star in the starry sky world could be used to communicate and comprehend. But not only did they leave the village, but they had also created this grudge with Yi Futian. The death of the great elder of the Demon Cloud was a warning to them. Therefore, this trip at this time was inevitable. What if Yi Futian were to seek revenge from them in the future? With the strength that Heavenly Mandate Academy possessed today, even the Nanhai family could ill afford its ire. With Yi Futian's personality, it was a real possibility that he would eventually end up at their front door, seeking revenge. What happened at the beginning was indeed my fault, I admitted. However, we are all people from the village and belong to the same line, after all. No one can dispute this. Old Ma, for the sake of our friendship these many years, would you allow me to ask for forgiveness from the teacher? I am willing to return to the village to cultivate, Muyun Long pleaded, seeking to bolster his request with their relationship once upon a time. However, everyone knew where he was coming from. It was only to seek better resources to cultivate. In addition, he may be scared of Yi Futian at this moment, fearing his tendency to settle old scores. You left when you wanted to, and now you are asking to come back because you wanted to. What kind of place do you think our village is? Old Ma said quite sarcastically. At that time, Muyun Long and the others had wanted to take Yi Futian down and had attacked him. Muyun Long's youngest, Muyun Shu, was even more outrageous. He had attempted to deal fatal blows to blind Tai's son, Tai Tu, without mercy. And Muyun Long himself was a son-in-law of the Nanhai family. Now, he wanted to return to the village? I know we have offended, but we are in the same line after all. If the teacher wants to punish us, we will accept it. In the future, we are willing to listen to all of you, no matter what. Muyun Long still bowed his head and admitted his past guilt. He had put down his dignity to be allowed to return to the village. Yi Futian looked at Muyun Long behind him and saw that he was standing quietly without saying a word. Obviously, it was not his idea to come and own up their guilt, but that he was dragged here by Muyun Long. Otherwise, Muyun Lan's arrogant nature would never allow him to come here and bow his head like this. After all, even lowering their stance was no guarantee of the results. As if he had detected Yi Futian's gaze, Muyun Long looked at him as well and saw that in the depth of Yi Futian's eyes, there was extreme tranquility without the slightest emotion in those eyes of his. It was as if he cared not at all for his existence. The look was familiar enough. Once, this was exactly how he looked at Yi Futian. It was an indifferent and careless look. Now, it was Yi Futian who regarded him thusly. Now in Yi Futian's eyes, Muyun Long was nothing. Aside from the power controlled in Yi Futian's hands, Yi Futian's own combat effectiveness was so strong that Muyun Long might not be able to contend with him. Yi Futian's sight slowly settled on Muyun Long and he said, "First, bring Muyun Shu and abolish his cultivation. Show me the sincerity of the Muyun clan." Muyun Long's eyes sharpened as the expression on his face changed suddenly. Not just him, but Muyun Long behind him also regarded Yi Futian with a cold expression. Did he ask them to abolish Muyun Shu's cultivation? How could they possibly agree to it? Emperor Yi, we are sincerely sorry for what had transpired. You needn't be so harsh, Muyun Long replied. I am being quite sincere. Yi Futian looked at Muyun Long. I won't mention what you did back then, but your youngest, Muyun Shu, being so cruel and plotting at such a tender age, how could we let him back in the village to cultivate without abolishing his cultivation? You don't really think we wanted to raise another you, did you? Yi Futian's voice was calm enough, but the indifference in his words was very obvious. Clearly, it was impossible. Sorry to have bothered you, Muyun Long said. He turned to leave. If there is a chance in the future, I will return the visit to the Muyun clan, Yi Futian said casually, causing Muyun Long to stop abruptly. After pausing for a few moments, he started moving again to leave, this time with some heaviness in his footsteps. What Yi Futian said was rather potent with meaning and significance. After Muyun Long left, someone came to report again, many forces from the Divine Prefecture are outside asking to be received. Yi Futian's divine consciousness radiated outside of the Heavenly Mandate Academy and saw the arrival of many top forces, which surprised him a little. It seemed that this was all caused by that battle. He never expected Uncle Tai's breakthrough would have such an impact on the top forces in the Divine Prefecture. It appeared that they had some thoughts of their own about this turn of events. After all, it was tough to produce a figure at the giant level. This was already a cultivator standing at the top in Divine Prefecture. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2291, For the Divine Prefecture? Chapter 2291, For the Divine Prefecture? Everyone welcome, Yi Futian said loudly. His voice reverberated throughout the space. Outside the Heavenly Mandate Academy, several cultivators from various top forces gradually made their way into the academy after they heard his words. They gathered at the main hall. Yi Futian scanned the crowd. There were quite a few familiar faces from some forces of the Shangqing domain. Zhou Muhuang, the vice chief of Domain Chief's Manor, and Princess Zhou Lingxi had come too. Zhou Muhuang looked at Yi Futian, who stood in front of the main hall. He felt that he was Fortune's fool. In the past, he intended to recruit Yi Futian when the Shangqing Domain Chief's Manor gathered all the talented cultivators. He wanted to keep Yi Futian under the control of the Domain Chief's Manor so that Yi Futian would be under his command. At that time, Yi Futian was but a Renhuang with extraordinary talent. However, judging from the current situation, Yi Futian's status was no longer beneath his status as the vice chief of the Shangqing Domain Chief's Manor. Furthermore, Yi Futian was superior to him. After all, the manor itself was the only force under the direct command of the Shangqing Domain Chief's Manor. On the other hand, the Heavenly Mandate Academy, led by Yi Futian, controlled all the forces in the original realm. The Ziwei segmentum was under his command too. Besides that, all the cultivators from Four Corner Village were willing to follow him. Combining all these forces, it was obvious that Yi Futian was leading a superpower. Moreover, Yi Futian was supported by the mysterious master. Hence, Yi Futian's current status was above that of Zhou Muhuang. When Zhou Muhuang visited the Heavenly Mandate Academy, he needed to wait for the host's approval before he could pay his tribute. Aside from him, all the cultivators from the various top forces of the Divine Prefecture also needed to wait for the approval of Yi Futian to enter the academy this time. No one dared to barge into the place without an invitation. Not long ago, Yi Futian and his team killed many powerful cultivators from the Demon Cloud, including Mo Ku and the Great Elder of the clan. Even Zhou Muhuang, the ruler of Shangqing Domain Chief's Manor, did not dare to comment much on this matter. Now, most likely, nobody in the Divine Prefecture could command Yi Futian. Not to mention that the matter involved personal vengeance. Outsiders had no stance in the vendetta between the Demon Cloud and Blind Tai. All of you have traveled far to visit the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Please excuse me for not welcoming all of you sooner, Yi Futian said to everyone while bowing slightly. He was polite and he spoke humbly. However, his humble speech also made people feel distant. Zhou Lingxi, who stood beside Zhou Muhuang, lamented internally. Back then, the Domain Chief's Manor intended to use her to keep Yi Futian around. Zhou Muhuang clearly sensed that the current Yi Futian was different from what he was before. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. In the past, even though Yi Futian had extraordinary talents, he was but a Renhuang who had exceptional combat abilities in the Divine Prefecture. There were plenty of top forces in the Divine Prefecture. Therefore, no matter how monstrous he was still insignificant. In the past, even though Yi Futian had extraordinary talents, he was but a Renhuang who had exceptional combat abilities in the Divine Prefecture. There were plenty of top forces in the Divine Prefecture. Therefore, no matter how monstrous he was still insignificant. However, it was different now. Yi Futian was no longer just an extraordinary talent himself. His background and the forces he commanded were all among the finest. There were not many forces in the Divine Prefecture who could afford to offend him. Hence, his entire temperament naturally seemed different. Even among the 18 Domain Chief Manors, more than half of them did not command forces as powerful as those below Yi Futian. Only the Domain Chief Manors with chiefs who had survived the second stage of a divine tribulation dared to claim that they could suppress Yi Futian and the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Even then, Four Corner Village still had a mysterious master to hold down the fort. With such a background, even against all the top forces of the Divine Prefecture, Yi Futian's manor was still imposing. Nevertheless, The crowd knew that Yi Futian had sought the aid of the forces of the Divine Prefecture during the battle of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Unfortunately, not many of them stood out to lend him aid. Many forces had even tried to kick him when he was down. Under such circumstances, they still came here seeking Yi Futian for permission to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court. He would naturally not act kindly towards them. Someone said, "Of course, we want to cast the forces of the Dark World out too." However, the forces of the Dark World are different from the forces in the Divine Prefecture. They are very united. The Dark Court rules over all the forces in the Dark World directly. Recently, more and more top forces from the Dark World have arrived in the original realm. Their lineup is as powerful as that of the Divine Prefecture. It is not that simple to want to chase them out. Before we declare war against them, why don't we unite the forces in the Divine Prefecture and improve our abilities by cultivating in the Starry Cultivation Court first? Yi Futian glanced at the person who had spoken. The other party's words sounded reasonable, but in the end he also wanted to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court first. No one could guarantee what would happen after these cultivators gained the right to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court. "I disagree," Yi Futian refuted. "Pardon me for speaking my mind frankly. Last time, when the Heavenly Mandate Academy was attacked, many forces from the Divine Prefecture were also waiting for the chance to join in the attack against me. Most likely, many of you wanted to kill me. I can't tell for sure what everyone is thinking. If I allow all of you to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court, but you end up becoming my enemies, wouldn't I be foolish for inviting trouble upon myself? Since seniors are interested in allying with me, then you should show some sincerity first." Yi Futian's speech caused the cultivators to fall silent. From the looks of it, Yi Futian was firm with his decision. If they wanted to gain access to the Starry Cultivation Court for cultivating, they had to first join forces with him to eradicate the forces of the Dark World lurking in the original realm. Otherwise, he would not agree to their request. Last time, when all the forces went to visit Ziwei Imperial Palace in the Ziwei Segmentum together, the latter had no choice but to allow them to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court. However, it was different now with Yi Futian in charge. They would most likely be unable to force him into accepting their request. It was because Master served as a deterrent. "Since that's the case, we'll further consider your suggestion," said someone. Clearly, the person thought that the price they had to pay to cultivate in the Starry Cultivation Court was too high. It was not worth it. Hence, the person was giving up. Right at the moment, quite a lot of people arrived. They actually traversed the space and entered into the Heavenly Mandate Academy directly. Naturally, this caused Yi Futian and the cultivators of the academy to frown. The incomers had serious expressions on their faces. They went straight to their respective forces and reported something to their seniors using transmitted thoughts. It seemed like something had happened. Someone also landed beside Yi Futian and told him something using transmitted thoughts. The news caused Yi Futian to narrow his eyes. One by one, the cultivators from the various top forces of the Divine Prefecture saluted their fists and said, "Farewell." After they said this, they immediately flew up to the sky and left. What happened? Lord Taishin revealed a worried expression. The person who just communicated with Yi Futian through transmitted thoughts was a cultivator from Ziwei Imperial Palace. From the looks of it, something had happened. Otherwise, the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture would not have left together. Most likely, they had also received the same news. Many people looked at Yi Futian. Yi Futian said, "In a void space outside of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, someone discovered a relic. According to speculation, it is a very ancient relic." The eyes of the cultivators narrowed when they heard Yi Futian's words. No wonder the visitors from the Divine Prefecture left in a hurry. Clearly, they had received the same news and decided to check out the relic immediately. The original realm was a void space formed after the collapse of the Heavenly Path. It was also called the Void Realm. Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.